Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everyone. This is Michael Tierra of the East-West course of planetary herbology. And I'm offering this webinar on an herb that has become my favorite of late. It's I hate to be hyperbolic, but it could be one of the top greatest herbs in the world as far as I'm concerned. And I say that to help offset some of the controversy that surrounds it, which I hope that I'm going to be able to dispel for some of you today, so you can take advantage of the fantastic benefits that it has to offer in your life. Just a quick check here. If you look to your right on the board there, you're going to see. Oh, I got it. Okay, so I'm seeing that you're hearing me all right, and that's good. So we're going to just progress right into it. Under that area of questions, you can ask questions, and I can unmute you, and you can talk to me, and we're going to try to start regularly to have questions fielded by that you might have as we go on. You have a handout, which I hope that you've downloaded. And so here we go. This webinar is about the clinical uses of kratom. It's about its medicinal properties. The two major uses of kratom that are happening today are recreational, and the other one is medical or clinical. And this is just about exclusively about the clinical uses of kratom. So keep that in mind. If you're here just to get high, you're probably in the wrong place. Okay, so this is a little advertisement for our course. We're very proud of this course because we've just completed a new edition of it, and if you sign on now, I'm sure there's going to be a special for all of you who have decided to attend this webinar. And this, easily the materia medica, which has taken us 9 years to complete, and the whole course is the syllabus that we send out to you is I don't know, it's easily 600 to 1,000 pages, and the materia medica is probably the most comprehensive materia medica that you can find anywhere, and it's not available in any books or anything like that. So this course is conducted both through distance learning, and we have a website, and people who enroll in the course have access to the student center of the website. They have access to private webinars that we give periodically, and we have a whole group of outstanding teachers who give chats and lessons each week. And we also have people who are overseeing the forum and seeing to it that people are keeping a good discussion about that's related to herbs and healing. That's what this course is strictly about. It's about herbs and healing. So one of the latest features that we're adding to the course this year, we've had it before ongoing here, but I'm emphasizing it this year, is the teaching of ear seeding, which is a tremendous boon to anybody who wants to do home medicine and or conducting a professional practice. Ear seeding basically is sometimes called auricular acupuncture, where there's points in the ear that correspond to every part of the body. It's so simple, cookbook simple, I must say, and astonishingly effective. You have little seeds, tiny, they're called vicarious seeds. They're from a particular plant, and you use a device that actually searches the ear and finds points that are sensitive. And you got a hip pain, you have a knee pain, you have hypertension, you have stress signs or need to relax, anxiety. Uh, it's really uncanny, but you just find the point, put the seed on it, and it stays on there for a week. You press it 9 times each time, 3 times a day, and usually within the first day, even actually in the cases that I've treated, the relief is apparent just about immediately uh, 10 minutes or so after applying the seed and pressing it. So no other herb course offers that kind of uh, program. And if you're interested in having a profession or want to amplify a healing profession, I know medical doctors who are doing exclusively in their clinic ear seeding because it treats every part of the body, and you don't have to go through the learning the traditional Chinese medical system, which we also teach as a diagnostic system. These all complement each other beautifully, and it allows for a ongoing practice where you can see people on weekly and apply the seeds, give them the herbs, and you have a thriving practice going on. So enough for the ad. Onward. This is an agreement uh, for the sake of safety, and it's your safety as well as mine. I understand that the information presented on this webinar is strictly for educational purposes and is not intended to replace appropriate medical care. None of this information has been evaluated by the FDA. So we got that out of the way. This is some of the elements that we're going to cover in this webinar. A little bit about the history, clinical classification, biochemistry, legality, and so forth. You can see the whole thing down there, and cases and testimonials. And this is probably where I'm going to open it up for people to add their own, which would make it much more current and exciting. I have many cases from my own practice. I use Kratom a lot, Mitragyna speciosa, in my practice, and it's phenomenally effective. And so I want you to know about it. I've been working very closely with the American Kratom Association, and that's their website, americankratom.org. Uh, so any material that I've excerpted from them has been with their enthusiastic support, and I've used material to basically to form an outline because it's so well organized, and but I've derived my material from my own practice as well as from weeks of research and searching other people's work with it online and in person. There's only one other acupuncturist and herbalist in the country that I know who's actively teaching about kratom, and that's an herbalist named, an acupuncturist named Bob Lindy. He lives in Florida. I don't remember offhand. I think I have a reference to him later on. But he and I have been corresponding, and we're both extremely enthusiastic about sharing the truth about kratom with our patients and with the world, and especially other herbalists and therapists. Kratom is a natural botanical native to tropical Southeast Asia. It's a member of the coffee family called the Rubiaceae, and its scientific name is Mitragyna. The people of Southeast Asia have used kratom leaves as an herbal supplement and traditional remedy for hundreds of years. Matter of fact, I've read 3,000 years to be specific. I didn't know that there were people living in that part of the world for 3,000 years, but nevertheless, that's what I've read. So I think there have been. When taken in appropriate amounts, kratom or kratom, you can say it either way. I've been saying kratom, and Bob says kratom, so can provide increased energy, minor pain relief. I think the minor pain relief is mostly a qualifier. I've seen it really major pain. And you all know, you've all heard about kidney stone pain, that it's considered to be the worst pain imaginable and comparable to childbirth. And I had a patient just a week ago who was suffering with acute kidney stone pain. And I just gave him 2 doses of kratom. That basically is 2 teaspoons of the powder. And he took 1 teaspoon, and within 30 minutes, the pain was gone. By gone, I mean he knew there was a problem there, but it wasn't incapacitating him in the slightest. He went on with his normal activities, and then the next morning I said, take another teaspoon, and he did. And again, the pain was gone for the entire day from that. And in the evening, he passed the stones, and that was the end of it. So that's just one of the most uh, spectacular examples of the level of pain that kratom can relieve. So the word minor is questionable. I think we're going to need more experience to decide whether the pains that it worked for are minor or not. Also, it treats a variety of mental and physical ailments. It's very effective for depression, and people have used it to get off of antidepressants and other physical ailments. I've used it on people with end stage cancer, and it greatly eased their whole process there was no cure for them, and they eventually passed away. But it eased the process a lot, and there was no problem with addiction to opioids. This is the big point about kratom, is that there's no addiction associated with it at the doses that I find clinically relevant and medically effective. We'll get into that later. Um, so there's actually 10 species of Mitragyna, and they grow in tropical and or arid parts of Africa, India, Bangladesh, China, Sri Lanka, and Southeast Asia. I don't want to get into all of these different species, but I want to say that mitragynine is an alkaloid, one of 40 different alkaloids in kratom that is considered to be very specific for the pain relieving properties, and it's unique to the mitragynum growing in Indonesia, specifically Thailand and Borneo, Bali, places like that. So it's the only one that has mitragyna. I don't know that firsthand. I'm curious about it, but I don't, since I don't have any other species with this. That's the fact that I can relay to you. So what's going on here? So what kratom is not? Kratom is not a drug. That's really important to keep that in your mind because people like to think of it that way. One moment. I've got to get my glass of water that I have ready for me here. Hey. Sorry about that, but I know my mouth is going to go dry here, and I need to moisten it as I keep talking. So it's not a drug. It's not an opiate. That's another thing to keep in mind. It's not a synthetic substance. We're talking about what's called what we call plain leaf kratom, not a kratom extract, not even if it's an extract of the actual leaf itself, because it is the leaves of the tree that are used. I actually am against the use of those because that encourages people to take that risks people taking too much. We don't know really exactly what happens when people take too much kratom. Uh, there's a lot of mixed reports out there about addiction to it. I'm going to get into that later on. But rather than venturing into that controversial area, because I don't think that it is addictive, there's also kratom has never been known to be responsible for the death of any person whatsoever. There have been deaths associated with kratom that has been adulterated, sometimes with opiates, and there have been deaths associated with adulterated kratom. You have to keep in mind that kratom is very effective. It's sold in a lot of head shops, and when people go in there, they're looking to get high, and so the stores are trying to figure out, and some of the companies, what can they do to boost it up so you can get even higher. And that's not what you should be looking for. You should be looking for plain leaf kratom, which is the straight raw powder. And I'm going to give you sources where you can buy it. And guess what? It's very, very cheap when you purchase it that way. Kratom behaves as a partial mu opioid receptor agonist and is used for pain management, energy, even depression and anxiety. That's so common among Americans. Boy, is that ever! I've run into a lot of that anxiety issues in my life over the last few weeks. Kratom contains no opiates, but it does bind to the same receptor sites in the brain. Chocolate, coffee, exercise, and even human breast milk also hit these receptor sites in a similar fashion. The ways to use kratom. When you purchase it, it's usually going to be in a powder form. As a matter of fact, it will be in a powder form. And so you can put the powder in a tea. I have to prelude all this is that for most people, kratom doesn't taste good at all. Matter of fact, it doesn't taste that good to me either. When you understand the benefit that it does for you, you don't mind swallowing down a teaspoon of the powder, which is the dose that I recommend. But if you're really uh, wanting to mask it, you can put it in fruit juice. I actually recommend taking it with a little bit of either apple cider vinegar and water, or lemon juice with honey, because the citric acid actually helps the absorption of the alkaloids that are the potent biochemistry of the kratom that you're looking for to achieve these effects. It boosts its properties. It can be stirred into a tea, and a lot of people who use kratom in in Southeast Asia uh, have kratom tea, teaspoon, or you can put it in capsules. If you buy it in capsules, you're going to pay a lot more for it, but it makes it easy for ingesting it. The average dose that equates to a teaspoon of kratom powder is about 4 capsules, and we're going to talk about dosage later on. Kratom is not habit forming. It's not habit forming unless taken in extremely high doses for extended periods of time. I'm talking about months. And I'm talking about people who are abusing kratom and oftentimes are trying to take it like as an alternative to doing heroin or other strong drugs. And they just take it every day in high doses. And yeah, if you take anything like that, you're going to develop a dependence or even the word dependence and addiction has actually two separate meanings that we're going to get into in a minute. But addiction indicates basically something that you feel like you have to have because but it's not good for you. In other words, it's doing bad things to your body. A dependence can be something that you're taking because what it's doing to your body and to your is something that's desirable. We have many things that uh, uh, we're dependent on, as for instance the two couples there, they're dependent on each other, and she's dependent on him and he's dependent on her. Those kinds of dependencies are things that form with people, animals, and with herbs and foods. So uh, you can sure you can develop a dependency to kratom if it's the only thing that's going to relieve chronic intractable pain in your life. But Having said that, I know many people who have taken kratom daily, some in even higher doses than what I'm recommending, and they can stop on a dime without any discomfort at all. Or sometimes maybe like stopping high amounts of coffee every day, some feeling of feeling off for a day or 2 days or 3 days even. I recommend basically trying taking regular breaks, and and if you're needing to take it for a long period of time, then taper down on the dosage and with interruptions and so forth. Uh, I think that makes for a smoother landing. An important difference between addiction and chemical dependency. This is what I was getting to here. Um, and I think I basically said it. Um, Dependency, let's see here. You can have a chemical dependency or drug dependence, means that when the user stops using the substance, withdrawal symptoms are experienced, and taking the substance makes those symptoms go away. A good 80% of people on the planet, which is an educated guess, are dependent on some type of chemical. Among those chemicals, nicotine, alcohol, caffeine top the list. But of course, there are many other substances that can cause dependency, including good old sugar. Addiction is different. It's defined as a pattern of behavior, of chemical use characterized by continued use of the substance, despite the negative effects it has on a person's life. As time goes on, those negative effects continue to expand and include things like unemployment, serious health issues, family and legal problems, perhaps even poverty. This is what's happening in America today, and whether I have only this opportunity to say it or I'm going to say it maybe a few more times, it was started by the pharmaceutical company and promoted and dispensed by medical doctors, and they're responsible for more than for maybe 2/3 of all the addiction that to opiates that is now epidemic in this country. And this was done as a result of a pharmaceutical company called Purdue Pharmaceuticals, who very deceitfully, because they were found guilty of promoting a drug that would cause addiction. And their idea was it was OxyContin, and their idea was basically that they wanted to create an opioid that would be a pretty substantial dose of opioid, and have it be time released. So the idea is that the argument they had is that it won't be addictive, and you can use it for even simple pains like a minor backache or neck pain or anything else, anything like that, and it's not addictive. And sure, uh, uh, every doctor and every medical person knows that opium is incredibly addictive. Sometimes you only have to take it for a week before you're addicted. Some people, paradoxically enough, don't get addicted. So there's individuality in all that pattern as well. But enough people got addicted taking opioids and other kinds of things that have opiums type of drugs in them to create this epidemic. And the FDA never required human trials with this. Something they insist on other drugs to be used, but they just caved to all of that. And without human trials, the Purdue Pharmacy initiated a unique way to sell their product, because they were no longer selling it directly from themselves, but they hired other medical doctors to go out and lecture and give uh, medical doctors and get other medical doctors to use it, which is very underhanded. So eventually, the problem arose, and lots of people became addicted, and then when that awareness arose, there was a tendency to want to cut down the dosage of people and to so that they could no longer have access to it. And that's when people discovered that heroin is cheaper and does the same thing. So uh, it's ironic that people who uh, might have thought that heroin is just something that is a street drug and for people who are not necessarily very reputable who get hooked on it, they find many people in middle America just rolling in the streets with addiction problems and having the same kind of pattern of antisocial behavior that's associated with any opioid addict. So Purdue Pharmacy was eventually fined, and their CEOs are fined. I think there's still some lawsuits going on with them over this, but they never stopped selling the stuff. And while it's limited in this country, they're selling it now all around the world to other countries without any restriction. So uh, when we read about the FDA and wanting to restrict kratom, I'd like you to keep that in mind. Um, it's a very safe alternative, and it works just about as good or better. Many people think it's better. Um, that forum up there, I love Kratom. It's a silly name, but it actually is a very very good uh, forum where people are having discussions about the use of Kratom that I think you would enjoy if you want to learn more about it to read that. So if you are chemically dependent on the alkaloids containing Mitragyna speciosa, and its use makes your life better by relieving distressing symptoms and helping you to be a productive contributing member of society, you're not an addict. While most people would use these terms interchangeably, technically they do not mean the same thing. The legality of Kratom. Kratom is legal today in 44 of the 50 United States. 6 states, Indiana, Tennessee, Wisconsin, Vermont, Arkansas, and Alabama, have laws classifying Kratom as a Schedule I controlled substance, which banning the manufacture, sale, financing, or even possession of Kratom in those states. One thing I learned recently is that individual cities and counties can also ban Kratom. Sarasota County, Florida, uh, classifies Kratom as a Schedule I. So, of course, the stores that sell it just move outside the boundary of the county and open up their business there. The same thing is in San Diego County, California. Why it's a bad idea for the government to ban plain leaf kratom. The CDC uh, cites a tenfold increase in calls from 26 to 263 since 2010 to 2015 related to adverse effects associated with kratom. And they always use it. I don't have it here, but whenever the FDA or the CDC or the DEA talks about kratom as a problem herb or drug, they never say that it is the cause of an addiction. It's the cause of a health problem. They say it's associated. So read that word very carefully because it's associated because the person who's using it is doing other things that are far more at issue than the kratom that they're taking. On 7%, so 7% of these complaints were serious side effects, including one death. Again, the death was not from kratom only; it was an adulterated substance. Most of the calls were minimal effects. The American Association of Poison Control Centers received 2.8 million calls in just 2015, and only 263 of them were kratom, with one possible death. This is a very small percent and is a relatively low number of calls with the number of people that take kratom. The AAPCC site warns of things like hand sanitizers and e-cigarettes, laundry detergent packets, and opioid narcotic pain medications. It doesn't mention kratom as being a huge threat in the United States anywhere that I could find anyways. But I did find this after searching the web. Acetaminophen overdose is the leading cause for calls to poison control centers across the U.S. More than 100,000 instances a year. So when you hear these scare tactics, which are being promoted in the media to support the idea that kratom should be banned and scheduled as a Schedule One drug, you need to put this in perspective. Any self-respecting pharmaceutical company that could say that they had 263 incidences of adverse effect, even deaths, ranging over the course of 5 years, would celebrate the fact that their drug is incredibly successful. So kratom is being deprecated and threatened because the leaves of a common tropical tree threatens an entire industry of prescription drugs, ranging from pain relievers to antidepressants and many more. It's an excellent reason to mobilize the fight to keep kratom legal, and I hope that this talk today will inspire you to to go to the Kratom Association website, sign the petition that's there, contact your congressman, and just rattle everybody's cages that have anything to do with passing legislation that would ban this herb. This was done in 2016 very successfully, and as a result, and the DEA wanted to ban it entirely as a Schedule One drug, but as a result of over 150,000 calls that were made, and a large number of congressmen that were won over, the DEA decided to postpone it for a year, and that year has expired just the last month or two. So that's why we're hearing a lot more about kratom on the news again. And so I could go on and talk about this for hours, but anyway, let's continue. You got the point, I think. Kratom can be used like any other therapeutic herb. It can be consumed in a number of ways. It's a natural botanical ingredient that can be used in dietary supplements. It can be steeped as a tea. I've mentioned all of this. Kava kava is another South Sea Island herb that, like kratom, can be used recreationally, ceremonially, and medicinally. I, as an herbalist and other herbalists, frequently prescribe it for anxiety. Kava kava tincture is very effective. That you can take 30 drops of it and take the relieve serious anxiety symptoms within 5-10 minutes. Kratom works differently. Kava doesn't relieve pain, but kratom relieves pain, and it also relieves anxiety. There are other herbs such as albizia, which is the mimosa tree. It's a powerful spirit calming antidepressant and can be combined with kratom and Chinese corydalis, also used to treat pain. But none of these work as fast as kratom does. So you can combine these with good effect as long as you're giving a sufficient amount of kratom to actually do the job. Most people go to the doctor when they have no other recourse, and usually it's pain that brings them to the doctor. And doctors are desperate to try to find an alternative to the ones that they have to prescribe for pain. And so kratom is actually being used by some medical doctors in their clinic because it is so effective. I was just visiting the island of Kauai, and I could find no outlets there that was selling kratom. And but I heard that there were two medical doctors on Kauai who were prescribing kratom to their patients. So that's how effective it is, and anyone who, involved in the health industry should definitely consider to get it. And the threat of its being banned it hangs over our heads on a daily basis at this point. I think buying 2 kilos for $110, which is what I pay for the kratom that I have. A kilo is like, or a kilo is over 2 pounds rather, uh, of the powder is a wise thing to have on hand. Who knows if you have somebody in your family or friends who could benefit from it. So the primary medical uses for kratom are pain, addiction, withdrawal, and depression. 100 million Americans suffer from chronic pain. 21 million dealing with substance abuse. 2 million with prescription pain drugs, and that drug overdose, which has gone up 4 times, has become the leading cause of accidental death. Alcohol is the most commonly used addictive substance in the United States. 17.6 million people, or 1 in every 12 adults, suffer from alcohol addiction. 1 in 6 Americans, or 13%, take antidepressants. Kratom, the leaves from a relatively abundant tree, it seems like a blessing tree, I call it the mercy tree also, can play a decisive role in relieving the suffering of these people and people worldwide. This is from a webinar that Robert Lindy gave. So kratom can be used for pain relief, opiate withdrawal, alcohol withdrawal, speed type drugs. For PTSD, it's incredibly effective. Anxiety, depression, insomnia, inflammation, diarrhea, cough, immune stimulation, cognition enhancing. I'm eager for some people to actually try it on dementia patients, at least uh, the ones who are incredibly difficult to manage. I think kratom could help them a lot. It could help the caregivers as well. Uh, I recently had a patient with Parkinson's, and she came to me with severe degenerative disc pain in her back, and she had been suffering from Parkinson's for several years, so it was quite advanced. She was never a happy person. Every time I saw her, she was very sad. She had been an acupuncturist and herself, and I've treated her to try to relieve her Parkinson's, but it's a very difficult disease to actually do much with in terms of even giving relief. So I just gave her kratom to relieve her back pain, and the dose that I'm recommending, a teaspoon once or twice a day. And she took the first teaspoon, and as predicted, within a half hour, her back pain was gone. This is not something that that even the acupuncture I did on her did not give that result. And but the next week when she came, it was the first time I seen her smile. She said, "I don't know what it is about this thing, but it's made my Parkinson's. It's relieved my Parkinson's symptoms." And I thought, well, that's amazing. I had no idea that kratom could do that. And lo and behold, I went and looked and Googled Parkinson's and kratom, and there are some reports of its possible benefits for Parkinson's. Not confirmed with a lot of people, but that was my experience. Anti-leukemic. I have no first-hand experience with that. Anti-malarial. That's one of the common uses of kratom in the areas where it grows, and also for diarrhea and dysentery. Those two conditions are the common medicinal use for kratom in Thailand and in the tropical jungles of Southeast Asia. It's hypoglycemic, so it means that it can control lower high blood sugar, and one of its most effective uh, uses, because this condition is very much associated with people who are withdrawing from opiates, is restless leg syndrome. You ever see these movies and you see the dramatization of people on addictive drugs, and their legs are shaking up and down very wildly. It's not the occasional little twitch that we have, which is maybe a minor restless leg syndrome, but this is serious restless leg syndrome, and it's torturous during the process of withdrawal, and it relieves that. It's also, as I told you earlier from my own experience, available and as a remedy for kidney, bladder, and gallstone pain. So I just mentioned about this patient with Parkinson's, and I did mention that kratom also lowers blood pressure, so it does do that. Clinical classification and uses of kratom. This is my own preliminary analysis of how I would see it and classify it as a medicinal agent, as a medicinal herb in my clinic. And whenever one person gives their own opinion, and you don't have like a quorum of lots of people who agree to it, like you have with Chinese medicine over centuries on top of it all. It's always speculative, so it means that you might have some differences as you, if you're a practitioner, as to how you would classify it. So it's in the Rubiaceae family. Its flavors, I think, are pretty clear. It's both bitter and salty, and it's warm and typically it's warm and stimulating in small amounts and cool and sedating in large doses. It's also drying, so that means that if you have yin deficiency, in other words, dryness as part of the symptomology of your whole body, uh, you probably should take it with something like aloe vera gel, or if you're an herbalist, combining it with a separate formula that nourishes the yin in the body. That would be a wise thing to do. The herb Ophiopagan comes to mind as a really good one in this case. Um, and one of the interesting things about it is that when you take a small amount of it, it's warm and stimulating, and in larger doses, it's cooling and sedating. So why is that? It's because there's 40 different alkaloids in kratom, and it is a member of the coffee family. So some of those alkaloids are going to be stimulating, and some of them are going to be sedating. And apparently, uh, when you're taking a small amount, the stimulating ones seem to have more of an effect. I wouldn't call it stimulating so much. I would call it, as I've seen it referred to, as a more uplifted feeling. It doesn't hype you like coffee at all. It just makes you feel kind of up in in a good way. Um, I know one person who suffers from ADHD, and in which they were using Ritalin on a daily basis to kind of keep it under control. Um, and they switched to using a half a teaspoon of kratom in the morning, which worked all day to help keep their ADHD under control, because at that dosage it would be more stimulating. The organs and channels affected. This is based on Chinese medical understanding. It goes to the liver because kratom is bitter, and it also is anti-inflammatory. I know that from my own experience with it. It not only cures, uh, it not only relieves pain, but in some cases, if the pain is minor, kratom alone will actually relieve the pain, and then when it wears off, you find the pain is gone, because uh, bitter herbs tend to be anti-inflammatory, and I've experienced that in my own personal body at one time, and I've since tried that on other people. Now, understand that when I'm seeing a person and I'm giving them kratom, I'm not selling them a pound of the stuff. I oftentimes don't give them more than an ounce, and sometimes I'll only give them 2 or 3 or 4 days or weeks worth at the dose of 1 or 2 teaspoons a day, so that I'm measuring it out. We use it in homeless centers, and we use it at places where the East West Free Clinic is treating the homeless and also treating people who are mentally compromised. and they know about kratom. In that environment, I don't call it kratom. I call it mitragyna. Hopefully, that they don't think that we're a source for their drugs. And we just only give them a measured amount, like enough to go for a week. And if we get to know the person more, then we'll give them more of it. So it goes to the heart because it affects consciousness and the mind. It eases anxiety and it calms Shen, which is the spirit. It goes to the lungs because kratom is very effective for relieving cough. Uh, I would say it's very effective for that. And also, one of the things about opioids is that uh, more people who die from opioid addiction die because it depresses the respiratory system. You can be using kratom to control pain, and it does not affect the respiratory system. That's another huge advantage in its use. Kratom, like poppy and opium, also astringes the intestines, so it treats diarrhea and dysentery. If you ever grow poppies, those pods that are filled with seeds, you can save them and you can use them as an herb when somebody has diarrhea or dysentery. Just boil them up. But if you had kratom, you can just give them kratom. It works the same way. So it can cause some constipation in people, not severe. So if that's the case, I recommend taking it with some triphala, which is an herb that helps regulate the bowels and the digestion and so forth. So combining kratom with other herbs that help bring out its positive qualities and lessen any undesirable properties that may not be appropriate for that person is a good idea. But at the doses that I'm recommending, I haven't seen it interfere with bowel movement at all. But in case you do, that's something to keep in mind here. Following are some of the negative effects that some may experience when using kratom, especially in higher doses. I was very ambivalent about including this because my goal here is to encourage you to use it, not to discourage you. So keep in mind that these are negative effects that are reported not consistently, but by people who are using high doses frequently. Uh, at the dose that I'm recommending 3 to 4 grams once or twice a day, that's the medical dose. Now let's talk about that in comparison to the doses that I know people are using recreationally. We're talking about sometimes 20 grams once or twice or more times a day, or even more. And how they get it down, I don't know, because kratom is especially the plain leaf powder, and also not taking it in capsules obviates the fact that you can actually take too much of it, because if you take even in a teaspoon, it can cause nausea and cause you to vomit. So adjusting the dose according to that it's not a terribly uncomfortable type of nausea, but it can act that way on people. And so there you might take kratom with some ginger candy or some ginger tea um, with lemon in it. So these higher doses are the ones that are if the withdrawal indications are true, are the ones that are causing the most problem with people who are using kratom, and usually they're using it for the wrong reason. So there can be edginess, nervousness, nausea, vomiting, sweating, itching, dryness, constipation, and lethargy. And it can cause a chemical dependency similar to coffee, but maybe in some cases even stronger. Individuals who use daily high doses can develop lethargy and dark skin pallor. And we're talking about really significantly high doses, so keep that in mind. Same thing, by the way, happens with kava kava, which also causes it when people use it chronically, as they do in the in Indonesia, it causes the skin to get dark. Doesn't stop anybody from using it though. There's over 40 alkaloids, especially mitragynum and 7-hydroxymitragynine. Anytime you see a biochemical constituent ending with INE, it always means it's an alkaloid. Alkaloids are generally among the stronger types of biochemical constituents found in an herb. Many of them, like aconitine found in aconite, are deadly poison. This does not apply to kratom whatsoever. So it's because of the mitragynine that everybody's so excited about it, that it may be occupying the same sites as the opioid drugs, and it may have a similar effect. The properties and actions that release pain: calm Shen, astringent lungs, astringent the largest intestine. And the Western herbal properties that are more commonly understood is analgesic, sedative, anti-anxiety, mild antidepressive, anti-inflammatory, and antidiarrheal. In Ayurvedic medicine, they classify herbs a little differently. So Ayurvedic energetics would classify it as a pro-vata dominant because of its cooling and drying properties. Anti-pitta, especially in the higher doses, and it's also anti-kapha, mainly because of its bitter flavor. The dosage of the powder should be 3 to 9 grams of kratom powder, or anywhere from 1/2 to 2 teaspoons of the powder to be taken once to 3 times daily or as needed. When somebody's in pain and they're given morphine or they're given opium, one usually doesn't concern themselves with dosage so much. You take as much as you need to feel better. If you have a choice of doing that with an opioid or kratom, guess which one would be the better choice? And that's why the pharmaceutical companies are trying to egg the DEA and the FDA to ban it. And that's why you're going to get active in helping to prevent that. Dosing is highly individual, depending on the severity of the potency of the powder and the severity of the condition to be treated. I just recently bought a kratom plant online. I don't know that I recommend it because when I bought, I paid a lot of money for it, $86 or something. And it came to me really healthy, but it requires very specific growing conditions that are not characteristic of the climate that I live in. Obviously, it's a tropical plant. It doesn't like temperatures that are below 80 degrees, and it also likes high humidity. So I kept it, and it doesn't, and its roots don't like to be wet all the time. Well, I think I violated the third one with that. I put it in a kind of terrarium setting, but I kept a little bit of water at the bottom of it, thinking that it would absorb it through the plant. But keeping the soil moist all the time caused the leaves to start spoiling and even falling off. Well, I readily ate them this afternoon as they fell off, not wanting to waste anything. And I went to the clinic to see my patients. I ate about three of the leaves, and all of a sudden I got extremely tired. I just needed to lay down. It was really, really quite strong, and so I realized that even at that small amount, kratom was quite effective. Always begin with a low to medium dose, usually at 1/2 to a teaspoonful. If after an hour the condition is not significantly improved, you can take more. Remember, this is not using kratom recreationally, but medically. The effect of kratom from 4 to 6 hours, after which another dose may be taken if needed. At this point, I'm going to give you a little break of about 10 minutes to stretch and relieve yourself as necessary, and then we'll return in 10 minutes to continue. Okay, we're back again. Um, Going right along here. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm not going to belabor this too much here because there's a lot of material to get through. Kratom is described as having two effects: stimulating in small doses, and I prefer to substitute the word uplifting, in lower doses, and becoming sedative at higher doses. So let's see. I seem to be missing a slide here, but oh, there it is. This is the biochemistry of kratom, and this is only one, two, three, four, five major alkaloids that it contains. Uh, the main psychoactive one is mitragynin and 7-hydroxymitragynin, both uniquely found only in Mitragyna speciosa, a tree growing in Southeast Asia, and in the leaves of that tree. This is a list, a partial list of more of the alkaloids, and you can see that these have a wide variety of different properties, even being anti-cancer, dopamine-like properties. Um, maybe that's part of why it was effective with the patient with Parkinson's. This would be a perfect herb to be using for MS as well. These are conditions that, no matter what system or method of treating, are difficult to treat, and and just to be able to give someone relief, which is something I would like to be able to do to anybody who's suffering, it makes kratom a boon to any practice. As I said, I think if you're wise, you'll stock up on it. I have about 5 pounds of it now in my freezer to keep the powders fresh. Ed Smith, herbalist of Herb Farm, said he keeps his powders in the freezer and they keep indefinitely that way. But only recently I learned something that I'm going to experiment with, which is that some people have found that if kratom actually oxidizes and is kept in the sun for a month, it's stronger. So you go figure. You'll see that rincophyllene is a antipyretic, lowers fevers, antiarrhythmic for heart arrhythmia. Anthelmintic, anything that tastes that strong and bitter is going to kill parasites and bugs, something that would be a real problem in tropical climates. Mitragyna is a vasodilator and antihypertensive and muscle relaxer. So that just gives you a wide appreciation for how rich this herb is. Kratom use and the opioid epidemic in the U.S. Opioid in the U.S. was caused by the pharmaceutical companies named Purdue Pharmaceuticals in collusion with naive medical doctors and blatant figures of the FDA. Many medical doctors actually don't even know firsthand the drugs that they're prescribing. They go by what the sales representative of the pharmaceutical companies tell them, and this is where they got in trouble. All of them learned that opium and opioids are addictive in medical school, but being told by other doctors, but this one here that's time release, this is not addictive, and they were lying and they were wrong. Now, millions of people throughout the U.S. are relying on the availability and use of kratom to more safely manage their addiction and even to withdraw from opioids altogether. And regulatory agencies would like to ban it. These are some of the early opiate withdrawal symptoms. Tearing up, and these start within 6 to 12 hours. That's important, especially as we learn, as I share with you the uh, one approach for how you use kratom to withdraw from opiates further on in the webinar. Because you want to wait before you actually take kratom until you be just when you're on the edge of starting to have withdrawal symptoms. That's when you should take it. You shouldn't take it before when there's no symptoms. These symptoms begin within 12 hours, 6 to 12 hours for short-acting opiates, and within 30 hours for longer-acting ones. So you have tearing up, you have muscle aches, you have agitation, trouble falling and staying asleep, excessive yawning, anxiety, runny nose, sweats, a racing heart, hypertension, and fever. Late opiate withdrawal symptoms, things get a little worse. Within 72 hours, they usually last a week. Nausea and vomiting, diarrhea, goosebumps, stomach cramps, depression, drug cravings, and of course, we mentioned restless leg. It's not on this list here. Some of the psychological withdrawal symptoms and cravings for opioid drugs may continue longer than a week in some cases. It's always best to integrate counseling and other therapies before, during, and for a period of time after withdrawal is completed. That's something that Bob Linda really emphasizes in his practice, and basically you want to get people onto a healthful regime, healthful herbs that are rejuvenating, because the effects of these drugs on and being on them, effects on their body and mind and spirit is ravenous. So they need more than just withdrawal to actually get clear. And so the more that you can support them in that process, the better. The other thing that's extremely important, and one of the reasons why some people may fail in withdrawing from opiates, is that they stop entirely too quickly. Many people have taken kratom and successfully doing that, just stopping all their drugs. I know one woman who was taking all kinds of antidepressants and pain relieving opioids, and she stumbled on a kratom, and by chance she took it, and she could drop all these drugs immediately, all of them. And I don't recommend that at all. But she suffered no adverse reactions from doing that at all, and she's been taking kratom and managing the pain associated with cystic fibrosis, especially as you get older, becomes more and more severe, and she manages her life beautifully on just using kratom alone. So, how kratom is used to help withdraw from opioids and other pharmaceuticals. The information here is a reasonable description of how thousands of people have weaned themselves off of antidepressants, alcohol, and pharmaceuticals. And again, as a matter of form, I have to say that it's not intended to replace proper medical supervision whenever possible. Proper medical supervision in this case could be a medical doctor who's just going to attend the process that you've chosen as you decide to quit. It could be someone like Bob Linda or myself or another qualified herbalist who can just watch what's going on and make some decisions as to taking more, taking less, taking some other herbs to help guide you through the process. But whenever possible, I don't recommend trying to do withdrawal by yourself, even though many have successfully. There are also many who have not. And the other thing is that if you are withdrawing from opioids, try to taper off as much as you possibly can. And then when you finally decide to quit entirely, then start taking kratom, and it works a lot better that way. And if you have to take, fairly large doses of kratom to get you through that first week, then you want to taper off the kratom at the end as well. So uh, that would be a smoother ride and a smoother landing of the whole process, and it'll be a lot more uh, uh, sure to succeed if you follow that. And again, working with diet and with herbs and people who are skilled in helping to guide you through that process. Many people are given things like oxidone and methadone, which are themselves extremely addicting, and kratom has been used to get people off of those things as well. So these are the symptoms, opioid symptoms that kratom relieves: opiate cravings, muscle and body aches, restless leg syndrome, fever and sweats, poor mood and attitude, low energy, and lethargy. This is Bob Linda's experience and my own as well. So again, how to use kratom to manage opioid withdrawal. Kratom is not intended to replace proper medical supervision whenever possible. I have to say that again so that you understand that you really, if you're going to uh, be telling somebody to you just take kratom and get off the drugs, well, you can do that, but it's much better to try to direct them to somebody who can work with them as they're doing that. And if you're anywhere in the Bay Area or Santa Cruz area, I'm available clinically and happy to work with the patients that way. And so is Bob Linda and probably Thomas Easley in Florida as well. And you might find other people, because I'm talking this up and trying to convince a lot of my colleagues to start using this stuff. So the strains of kratom is one of the big mysteries. I wish I could give you definitive answers about this, but here goes. Kratom variations can be based on where it's grown. You find special promotions for Bali kratom, for kratom from Borneo, kratom from Malaysia, Thailand, and other South Sea islands. I don't know. I haven't tried them all, so what can I say? Um, the white strains, we're talking about. Um, they're called strains or white vein kratom. We're talking about the what if you hold the leaf up to the light, how the veins in the leaf appear. So the white strains are more stimulating. The green strains focus on pain. It's the one I generally recommend as the all-purpose kratom to use. You'll see it as a green veined kratom or green kratom, and there'll be another word called Ming Da, Maeng, and then Da. It's a Thai word that means pimp, and basically this is supposed to be a type of kratom that has been grown to have more all around positive per, uh, potency, and it's probably a good strain to use, or it could be a commercial hype. We there's no way of really knowing about that. I know that the stuff I get from my source, which we're going to talk about in a minute, has been very effective. The red vein kratom is more relaxing, more analgesic for people with serious pain and for serious withdrawal issues. You might want to use the red strain kratom. It might be not a bad idea to have all three available, as some practitioners have recommended, so you can actually adjust the degree of analgesic qualities that you want to have and relaxing if you're trying to promote sleep, and or if you're trying to promote more uplifting and stimulating properties. So you can work with it that way. And people get into trouble trying to use high doses of kratom to completely replace their opiate habit. Um, we're talking about, I actually heard somebody taking 60 grams of kratom a day, or even twice a day. So um, diet, herbs, and acupuncture during withdrawal. I made some mention of that. Using ginger to help relieve the nausea. Uh, you can mix the powder with applesauce, uh, and you can take it in capsules. You can take it with uh, a yin tonic, like a demulcent, like if you don't have access to Chinese herbs, you can use marshmallow root with it, or aloe vera. Always with a little bit of lemon juice added to increase its potency. Um, the other thing is that kratom does not interfere with drugs that a person is taking. Now, uh, if somebody's taking a MAO inhibitor, it's recommended to not use kratom. But all other antidepressants, the reports that I've read and the experience that I've seen, does not it's not contraindicated with the use of kratom. Gradually tapering off of kratom after detox. Um, I think we've covered this in a previous discussion, a few slides previously. And this is a statement, uh, scientific statement, where they reported that the self-treatment of chronic pain and opioid withdrawal with kratom, the predominant alkaloid of kratom, mitragyna, binds mu and kappa opioid receptors, but has additional receptor affinities that might augment its effectiveness at mitigating opioid withdrawal. The natural history of kratom use, including its clinical pharmacology and toxicology, are poorly understood. So don't expect that it's going to be better understood, because uh, there's no money in trying to do research on the leaves of a tree. However, with all the hullabaloo about kratom being dangerous and the FDA calling for it's being scheduled as a Schedule One and banning its use entirely, uh, a pharmaceutical company I'm told, is now coming out with uh, a, a kratom based drug. I don't know anything about it. Maybe it's a good thing. Who knows? I don't care what a person takes to relieve serious pain, but the issue of cost for these things is significant. I mean, people go bankrupt taking pain for drugs, and kratom is incredibly cheap, and so that's always a factor for many people these days. The dosage guidelines. We talked about the relationship of small versus larger doses. 2 to 4 grams is called mild. You get mild stimulating effects. So a teaspoon of powder equals 3 grams. 4 to 6 grams give you medium effects, stimulant or sedative effects. Some people will need that if they want to have increased analgesic properties. Uh, this cancer patient that I mentioned that was terminal with stomach cancer, he had a large tumor, and it got to be very painful. The kind of thing that you start giving people high doses of opium to morphine to control. And he took a teaspoon of kratom, and it hardly did anything for him. When he increased it to a teaspoon and a half, or actually he had to increase it to two and a quarter or two and a half teaspoons of kratom before it actually really made a difference and made him feel more comfortable. So that kind of situation, you have to really kind of like work with the dosage a bit. but you can pretty much put your money on the fact that if somebody has pain, kratom's going to do the job. I had a man in town here who was crippled with back pain and leg pain, and he could barely walk, and he was scheduled for surgery, and where they were going to fuse his disc together, and he was stuck and sitting in his chair the whole time. And so he's a friend of mine. So I brought over some kratom and took a. He's not really terribly open to these things. Well, he's sort of open, but it was this is a new thing. So after talking to him for a while, I convinced him to take some kratom, and uh, he took like a teaspoon, and it seemed to not, at least his report, he didn't report significant improvement, which to me was pretty remarkable. I think basically he just didn't notice it, because the next day he called me up and said, "Well, I don't know about this stuff, but it really worked. My back pain is a lot better." 6 to 8 grams, you get strong sedative effects, analgesic effects, and this is too strong for most people. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the kratom strains again, just a bit more, and then we're going to open it up to testimonials, which may be fun here. And you're welcome to say anything pro or con that you want to share. We're all learning here, but I'm very interested in any reports that anybody has to say about this. So this is taken from another website. I don't know offhand exactly which one. So the red vein strains are sedating. Anyone who is a chronic sufferer or insomnia sufferer may find red strain aromatherapy sessions beneficial. While although it has been said that lower gram sessions are more stimulating, it varies from person to person, and most connoisseurs describe the red strains as relaxing and sedating. There's actually an ethnobotanist that thinks this is all baloney, and that basically what they're talking about is maybe some different trees with unique uh, genotypes, or they're talking about the stage of the leaf's growth, whether the light is shining through it or not, or uh, reveals these veins more to with different color patterns. So the white vein, people suffering from exhaustion. Some people take it like coffee in the morning, but when the uplifting and stimulating effects of white vein kratom wears off, in my experience, you get very sleepy. So and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Um, so all the kratoms will relieve pain, but some of them are more effective than others, evidently. Okay, so uh, we're going to allot some time for questions here and comments. If you look over here at the control bar, the control panel, you'll see a little hand at the top. And if you click on that, as Ann Woodridge did, I'm going to unmute you so you can ask your question, tell your story, uh, whatever you need to say. So, Ann, I'm unmuting you right now. Hold on for a second. Hi, Ann. Hello. Are you there or are you sleeping? Ann Woodridge. Okay, she's not replying, so I'm muting her again. Anyone else have a comment? Here's Barbara Demasi. I think that's, so I can read it. Hello, Barbara.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you doing? How do you pronounce your name?
Damasi.
Demasi.
Hmm.
Uh, Tell us whatever you have on your mind here about
Well,
Kratom.
I had a question, and I'm wondering if Kratom is just as effective if it's tinctured.
Ah, you in your notes, you're going to have a recipe for how to make Kratom tincture.
Oh, okay.
I didn't want to take up the time to do that on the webinar because I really wanted to leave a lot of time for these comments at the end. And believe me, it was really hard to cut this webinar down. And what I wound up with when I created it was like with 3 hours of stuff, and nobody wants to sit here that long. So, so the whole issue about tinctures is in how to make them at home yourself with the powder
Hmm. Hmm.
is on your notes. And
Okay. Thank you.
again, the same issue with tinctures applies to capsules, which is that when you take kratom in that way, it's so easy to take too much. So
Oh, okay.
it's really a good idea to uh, to do measured doses. What I found is on an average 1 to 5 or 1 to 4 tincture, that about a teaspoon of kratom equals what might be a teaspoon of the powder. That
Okay.
sounds counterintuitive, but that's my experience. But you can play around with it because, as I said, kratom is really very safe.
Perfect. Yeah, I've been using it for many years, actually.
Oh, what have you used it for?
Pain mostly. And I do have clients that have Lyme, so it's been really effective for not just their pain, but their fatigue as well.
Uh huh.
Hmm.
What strain do you use?
The Mangda, I'm
Mang,
not sure how you say it, but
Mangda, do you use the
hmm. Hmm. Yep.
That's what I think is a
Yeah.
good all around one to use. There's the white to choose from, and there's the red, and I have them all. But so so you're using it for pain for yourself, I guess, huh?
Well, I started using it for myself and it was so effective. I also found that it gave me energy. Pain can be exhausting.
Yeah.
So then I started to share, it's a controversial herb, so I was a little wary to share it with clients at first, but they've had such great results that, you know, I just let people know about it and then let them make the choice whether they want to take it or not.
What kind of a health practitioner are you?
I'm a clinical herbalist.
Good. Well, good.
Yeah.
I'm really glad to hear about your experience. I'm sure everybody's going to gain from that. Thank you very much, Barbara, for your input. Anything else you want to say about it?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks again. Okay, I'm scouring down to see who else has their hand up. Here's Barbara Tenney. I'm going to unmute you, Barbara. Hi, Barbara. Can you hear me all right? Hello, Barbara. Your hand. Hello, Barbara.
Oh, are we there?
Oh, there you are. Okay.
All right, thank you. Sorry about, I'm in a rural area, so it's a little bit difficult sometimes.
Oh, good. Good. I'm glad I hung on. I was about to move on to somebody else. Go ahead and
Oh,
tell me what you have to say about Kratom.
well, I'm new to it about 3 months. I'm a veteran in Middleville, Michigan, using the Wyoming VA in Battle Creek. As you know, we have a lot of issues within the VA and medications and overdosing, etc.
Yeah, tell us.
I'm not, yeah, I'm not into medications to the best of my ability. I do have some diagnoses of spinal degeneration, some spinal stenosis, fibromyalgia. It's compiling, and I've managed not to take narcotics nor use marijuana in a medicinal state, which I always find interesting. It's just not my choice. Natural herbs or plants have been my choice, and it was suggested by a friend to try Kratom, and I went, yeah, okay. But you got to try it before you don't. And I'm finding that it is beneficial. I'm struggling with understanding the formulation of the strains. And I noticed tonight that you said green was better for pain when I'd been told red is actually better for pain.
Yeah,
So
me.
I'm listening intently at what you're using and suggesting to people when you're treating them. And green, you're saying, is better for pain than red. Yes or no?
You know that I know that that's confusing in my presentation. It's because I haven't come up with a definitive answer yet. Uh,
That's okay.
but if I know somebody has really serious pain and I happen to have red on hand, I'm going to use that. But
Okay.
would it have been better than the green that I might have used as a matter of course? I don't know. I
Right.
have the answer to that. But but
Yeah.
but tell us about the pain that you have. Is it helping, and how much is it helping?
It is helping greatly. I'd say, sporadically, like today in an MRI, it was a level 10 and I just wanted to jump out of my skin. But I managed to get home shortly after that and do a toss and wash of about a teaspoon and a quarter, I would say, because I like to be conservative on anything I take.
That's a wide
And
freedom.
yes, keep it simple. I know there's a lot of people that want to play around and there's all these names, and it's like I find that at dispensaries too is that there's so many names, it's so confusing. And I work best on the simplicity of the Pooh Bear. And so I try to keep that at a minimal and keep it in mind, simplicity. And I find that's a good approach.
So on a
Um,
scale of 1 to 10, how much pain relief are you getting with that dose?
75%.
That's amazing, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. And it's like, okay, so in those times of 10, do I do a mixture? I mean, I'm still searching the right combination out for that extreme pain under duress, such as an MRI and staying in there 20 minutes. I mean, it's pretty hard to do sometimes. But as an overall average, yeah, it's incredibly helpful.
Try the red, and also try increasing the dose a bit. You could take do you notice any psychoactive properties when you take it? Does it change your
Um,
perception?
in if when I have like you said, cut back or changed it, or if I don't need it, I certainly can feel the effects differently with the red. I can feel it pretty immediately take down the level. But you if you listen to your body and what it's saying, a lot of people just want that instant gratification. Learning to sit with my body first and listening to it, it tells me what it needs, and I can gauge from there where to go.
Have you
And
ever
I think that
tried stopping it all at once?
I haven't stopped it at all. I
Okay.
just did minimal doses.
Again,
So
does it affect your consciousness, your driving, your normal day-to-day activities?
not in my driving sense, no. As far as clarity, yes. In my thinking, I was on an antidepressant for about a year, and it's like I really don't like the SSIDs and the side effects, and I really worry about them with the black boxes, etc. That's labeled, and it's like, yeah, I'm a great example for that. They had me on Lyrica for about about a month and a half, and I went, yeah, this ain't working. That's a nada for me, because I could feel the side effects. And actually, when I stopped taking it, which is not recommended because I did want to know the side effects, I lost my neurological senses in a totality that I hadn't experienced before. And that kind of freaked me out. So I went, yeah, no, this ain't happening. And I know that's their alternatives, but it is certainly not mine. And I'm really thankful that Kratom has been presented and brought forward. And I really do think that it's a beneficial
Is Kratom
to,
doing anything for your depressive syndrome?
yeah, I'm in normal days up and down now. You go, darn it, I wish the VA would do this. Darn it, life on life's terms. But
Right.
I don't find the great grave sadness or depression or the hopelessness, which, it's like you kind of know when you get there. And it's not a norm for me, but there was so much going on and so much on the table in transition, and like, what the hell's going on here with the VA? And we're in a congressional active investigation as we speak due to care and lack of care at the VA and the quality of care. So I'm hoping to introduce Kratom at some point in time
Good.
to to what's happening. Here's how I felt. You can look back at, a year, and here's the 7 things you tried to just subscribe to me. And I go, yeah, nah, yeah, nah, yeah, nah, but this is working, and here's why. And they have that missing piece. They don't have that missing piece yet. They just think I have really good coping skills, which I don't disagree. But there's also a Kratom factor that makes extreme difference with the pain. And I'm not in fight or flight or any of those things. It's just real clear, real calm, real comforting, because I don't have the pain levels and I don't have the stress
Thank you for
of
your contribution, Barbara. But
yeah.
let me suggest that you find a traditional Chinese medical practitioner who works with other herbs to actually work at with some of the deeper uh, uh, problems that you have. You might find some tremendous results if you uh, began introduce.
Yeah, acupuncture, deep rock, or exactly
Yeah,
Chinese healing,
yeah.
like the acupuncture.
Well,
There's one
taking other
in,
herbs like albizia, for instance. Um,
yeah, yeah. I'm looking at adding those things. It's just I needed a place to
I
start.
don't think you should do it. It's really hard to treat yourself. I find. See if you
Right.
see if you can find somebody who can do it. Listen, thank you
All
so
right.
much. I need to go on to another person. I have some hands up here, but I really,
Thank you.
really, and I'm sure everybody does your input here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye. Kratom stories. Where are you? Here we go. This is going to be Chris Brennick. Hello, Chris. You're unmuted now. Chris Brennick?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clear, and we can all hear you.
Good. I had a couple questions for you. First of all, for athletes who get drug tested, will this show up in a screen?
You know, Kratom has not has not in the past come up with any drug testing, but they're starting to include that now, and I don't know if it comes up with athletes or not. I kind of doubt whether they're going to test for that, but you just have to kind of like find that out for yourself at this point. But normally, Kratom does not show up on the screen for normal drug testing unless it's you only find something that you're looking for when you do tests like this. And we haven't been looking for it.
Okay. Okay.
That's a good question. I wondered about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, John. Chris.
Wait, one more question. What are some good places to purchase?
Oh, I didn't get to that. Let me mute you, and we're going to go on to that right now, and then we'll come back to some of these. Okay, thank you. That information is in your notes, by the way. So this is what you'll find on the American Kratom Association webpage. Hopefully, you're going to go on there and become active in trying to sign their petition and get other people to go on board with this. Use social media and all those kind of good things. These are some of the references I've used. A very small sample of the references I've gone through. They're credible and I think worthy. And these are all in your notes. Here are the places that I know, and this is not all inclusive. These are the ones that I know that have a quality kratom. And the one that I buy is the first one. It's now called Kratoma. www.kratoma.com. And I bought several pounds from them, and it seems to be working pretty well for me. And maybe if you tried some other sources, it might be better. But I think that company is reputable. They're not spiking it with anything, and you can pretty much count on it being what they claim it is. And one of the uses I didn't mention for kratom is for cosmetic purposes and for the skin. I think that it might be effective externally for pain, but I'm not sure about that. But I know that Kratom uh, is is fairly significant company, and they're trying to they have a cosmetic line that they're working on promoting in Europe, just in case the actual sale of kratom in this country would be stopped. The other one is Kratom Spot, and they have good quality kratom, and these companies do sell highly concentrated kratom extract 50 to 1, which I don't recommend buying, and because you really want to, for medicinal purposes, you want to stay with the plain leaf kratom, and if you're using kratom uh, recreationally, oftentimes that leads to more regulation because if you took 60 grams of any herb every day for, and usually it's a few months, you're going to have side effects, no matter even if it's chamomile. So, and they're just egging for people who are going to be abusing kratom to find an excuse to ban it. Fortunately, there's enough people who are using it, like the people who we've had on this site so far, to relieve serious pain, who are objecting to making it unavailable, that they haven't banned it yet. But we need to keep the pressure on, and that's what the American Kratom Association is for, and that's the one you want to bookmark and check with. So anytime you hear any kind of negative stuff about Kratom in the press, and you're wondering, hey, is that true? Did they just find something new? Uh, it pops up all the time. I go to the American Kratom Association, and they'll usually they seem to have funding and so forth. They usually investigate it immediately and come out with a statement about the veracity of that claim. So, getting back to our uh, people who have something to say about kratom besides me. Um, this is Chris John. Hello, Chris. Are you there? Hello, Chris. Are you there? Okay. Well, I'm sorry that if I missed you, but I'm gonna mute you now. And
There it went.
oh, are you there?
Yeah, there we go. Can you
You'll
hear me?
have to talk up. I'm not hearing you really clearly right now.
Can you hear me good now?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I've just to say that I've been using it and aware. Well, I got known to it around 2004.
You've been using it since 2004?
Well, I was first introduced to it around then, and have been using it on and off around since then for pain, for energy, for
Keep talking louder because you're fading now.
my internet. Yeah, so I've been using it for pain and energy, mood.
Uh-huh.
Helped a lot for pain.
Are you using it recreationally too?
I would say like it would be my coffee in the morning, and
Okay.
might pick up through the day, and maybe something to relax by night, but not an excessive doses. All at like the teaspoon dose or less.
What kind of pain do you have that's helping?
Um, that is rheumatism.
Uh-huh.
Some type of rheumatism, and it helped too with dengue fever. I'm in the Caribbean,
Oh. Oh, really?
so some people that had
You gotta
dengue,
plant some kratom trees there.
I have a couple here. Yeah,
Fantastic. Have you taken them?
yeah, yeah. Those they're more bitter than the powders that I would buy, but
Uh-huh.
I would no, they're pretty good, pretty good.
All right.
And for the pain, for the energy, for immune system. I read that they had the same constituent, two of the same constituents of cat's claw. So using those two together had helped at a time.
Good idea. Do you know other people who are using it there
Where? What do you mean?
in the Caribbean?
No, that was me.
I know. Do you know any other people who are using it?
Any other? Just people that would get it from me, as I do on an herbalist here. I make different concoctions
Oh, so you're an herbalist also.
for people. Yes.
Fantastic. Well, great. What kind of dosage do you give people?
All depends on what the problem is. For like the dengue, that's probably around the 2 teaspoon to a tablespoon. For the pain, the headaches, and the fever, that helped a lot with
Dengue
some other
fever.
herbs. Yeah.
And
Get the body aches.
have you noticed any adverse effects from using it?
I don't use it in high doses. I can't use it like that. That's just ridiculous. But no, I haven't. I could use it every day for a month and go on a trip and not have it, and it doesn't bother me, or haven't.
Fantastic.
Besides something small like if it was too strong, or took too much, or didn't eat enough before, maybe a little nausea or headache.
Uh-huh.
Past that, nothing. No.
So pretty much you're sticking with a teaspoon or a tablespoon as a dose.
Anywhere from a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon.
Good. That's what I do. Well, good. It's nice talking to another herbalist. Thank you so much for sharing with us tonight, Chris.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
I want to be sure that we get a good sampling of people's questions here. So we were on the C's, but I'm going to skip all the way down to the bottom. Did we talk to Tressie Taylor? Because I'm sure we're not going to get everybody here, but Tressie.
Hello.
Hello, Tressie. How are you doing? You're down at the bottom of my list right here with the T's.
Okay. I just had a real quick question. Michael, I was just wondering, I listened to a lecture with the AHG.
That's Bob Lindy.
Perhaps, I'm not sure. He was talking about opioids withdrawal and using St. John's wort.
Right.
And I was just wondering if you could use it in conjunction with the kratom, or if you think that those are sort of separate.
No, I think you can use it in conjunction, but if you're trying to get a predictable effect, such as pain relief from kratom, and you're not getting it it's like when you're adding herbs to one formula. Every time you add an herb, it means there's less of one thing that you're taking. That could be good or it could be bad, because sometimes the herbs work better when they're taken in combinations and like that. But if you're looking for a predictable kind of effect, I would take the St. John's wort, the prescribed dose of St. John's wort that you want to give to somebody, along with the prescribed dose of kratom.
He was replacing it quickly for the effect of the St. John's wort being able to clear the system of the opioid quickly. So would you add them at the same time, or would you, because here you're talking about, so you would maybe use the St. John's wort until you started to feel some of the side effects of the withdrawal kicking in, and then add the kratom from there on out?
You know, I wasn't, I've never used St. John's wort for that, but
Okay.
But I would say that without hearing about what dose of St. John's wort is he recommending?
I really wish I could remember right now. I was looking for my notes and I couldn't find it.
Because the normal dose of St. John's wort is going to be the equivalent of 30 to 60 drops. No, I don't think 30 to 60 drops of St. John's wort is going to replace what Kratom can do with a teaspoon of the powder within a half.
It was specific. There was a larger dose, and then it tapered down after a few days or a week. I don't remember it specifically.
Oh, St. John's wort's a great herb, and it has many properties, and they're fantastic, especially for nerve regeneration. And so that would be one of the herbs that I would think to take along with Kratom if I were treating somebody with neurological problems like that. So,
terrific. Really quick, one more. I work with a lot of kids, and we tell all of the time not to use Tylenol or ibuprofen.
right.
In very short, with children, we're not talking about huge pain. Would Kratom be anything that would be safe to use in much smaller doses, obviously, for specific instances of pain relief with kids, or would it be something we'd be looking at only for adults?
No, I would.
Okay.
I would use it. I just for general purposes, I wouldn't use it for a woman who's pregnant.
Right.
But and this is one of the great questions that is floating around the back of my mind. How effective would Kratom be to relieve the pain of childbirth? And so I think the answer to that is, would a medical doctor give an opioid to relieve a woman's pain during childbirth? If that was anything that somebody might give an opioid for to relieve pain, you can use Kratom for. So that's just a consideration and not a recommendation.
Right. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time in this subject, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we're down at the bottom of my list here. I'm going to I could stay here all night and listen to you guys because I'm learning from you, and that's what we're all about. But we have 178 people right now from all over the world who are hearing about Kratom, which is what my intention was here. And this is being recorded, so it will be available in a few days for people to tune into. So this is terrific. This is Shanna Clark. Is it Shanna or Shanna?
Sheena. Hi, Michael. How are you?
Sheena?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you great.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
Good. Have we met?
Good. No, sir.
All right, good.
We're
bad.
Okay, so I don't have a question. I just wanted to give my testimonial about Kratom.
Well, that's good enough.
Yes, so I'm 34, a mother of two, not working. I have fibromyalgia, SI joint dysfunction, and anxiety. And I've been on painkillers for much of my life since I was 18. I actually got introduced to Kratom by my neighbor. After my surgery, I ran out of my pain pills. So I was going through really bad withdrawals. And she told me about Kratom. So I had my husband go down to our local head shop to purchase the Kratom. And it was green mangda the first time I used Kratom. And it worked wonders. Within an hour, Michael, after that, I was able to cut my pills in half. Now I don't use anything except for Kratom.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
So
it gave me my life back.
Unless you know your source really well, I don't recommend buying Kratom in head stores. First of all, it's going to cost more because they're buying them from the same wholesalers that I've recommended here.
Right. I only bought that one time from the head shop. I currently buy it online. I've been using it since May. So I only bought it that one time at the head shop, but I've been purchasing mine online from then on.
Who do you purchase it from?
I have three of my main sources: Kratom Syndicate. I do Christopher's Botanicals, and I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. Premium. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the point is,
Yeah. Yeah. I
the
can't think.
point is that the three sources that I gave don't represent the only reputable sources on the internet, and Sheena has found others. So don't necessarily consider that the ones I gave are only places. In case you don't know any place to try it, but so thank you very much, Sheena.
You're welcome. Thank you, Michael. And real quick, the last one was Premium K Blends. I just got lost in space for a second.
Say that again.
Yeah.
Premium what?
Premium K Blends.
Premium.
Lou is the owner. Yes, sir.
Premium K Blend.
Yes, sir. .com.
I'm going to write that down just in case I want to try someplace different.
Yes, Lou is the best.
Does he or she have different varieties as well?
Yes, she does. I actually use all three strains. I forgot to tell you that as well. All three strains actually help me with my pain, and I use it for energy again. But Lou, she will actually send you out samples, Michael, if you're interested, before you try it. She'll let you try it before you buy it.
What's his name?
She's a lady. Her name is Lou, L-U.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. PremiumKblends.com.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate everything you're doing, Michael.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Well, what do you think about this, folks? It's pretty interesting, don't you? That's all unexpected to me. Are you convinced? I get more convinced all the time I hear about it, and nobody's told me any bad stories yet. I wish that I could get at least one bad story out of the group that's here, but I haven't seen one yet. And people are taking it sometimes for long periods of time. Haven't heard whether you need to increase the dose to keep the relief there. There's some ideas going around that there's a dose tolerance, like with opium, you have to increase the dose to get the same effect. I haven't heard that or seen that with anyone yet, and I've seen people who have taken the same dose, a teaspoon, for 3 years, never had to increase the dose. But I could imagine that again, mixing up the recreational from the medical use of it, that if you're taking large amounts of something to get high, you might need to increase the dose to feel the same level of high. But if you're taking a reasonable dose, you may not need to increase it. So let's go now to Robin Graham. Hello, Robin.
I wanted to address something you said about the testing.
Yeah.
We have heard of multiple instances of anytime someone has more than a 10-panel test, they can be tested for Mitragyna speciosa.
Okay, good. I think Bob.
There are actually tests being developed that test just that specifically, aside from the 12 or 100 panel.
Right. Huh. I appreciate hearing about that. There was a case of somebody who. This is a recent case of somebody who died in Florida, and they were trying to say that it was kratom. The coroner said it was kratom overdose, and however, he didn't test for anything else, and so a lot of those kinds of reports come out. And when it was the Kratom Association looked at it more closely, he was taking 2 other anabolic steroids. Any one of them could cause them to die, along with the kratom. You put 2 of those anabolic steroids together, that's a formula for killing you. So again, that much publicized recent report of someone dying in Florida from kratom, and they use the word associated with kratom. Because they can't really prove that it was the kratom that did it, because there were other things that are known to be a cause of death. So thanks again. And coroners are eager to jump on the bandwagons and to say that they found a kratom overdose when they did an autopsy, because that's sort of like a new novel thing for them. So so check with the Kratom Association when you're trying to confirm the veracity of these reports. Thank you, Robin. Patty Roth. Hello, Patty. Patty Roth. Hello, Patty.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you are. Okay. Hi.
Apparently it was on mute, and that's a default setting, and I did not know that.
Okay. tell me
I
question, comment.
share I'm kind of a new person to Kratom. I've only been using it since July. I did a lot of research for a couple of years before and got really sick off of pharmaceutical drugs before I decided to try Kratom out of desperation. I never took any drugs that wasn't prescribed or in a way that they were not prescribed. I have a brain injury. It's inoperable. My brain bled. And so I have headaches all day, every day. They said forever.
Wow.
So I now take Kratom, Kava, and Cordelias. And
Coidelis, right?
Last year at Thanksgiving, I could not eat solid foods. And by Christmas, I could not drink liquids. And by January, I was hospitalized.
Wow.
It turns out that it was, for the most part, the medicines that they had me on, the tramadol and the gabapentin, nortriptyline, was making me sicker.
Right.
So by the time July came around and one doctor said he can't help me because I'm on this medicine, the other doctor said I have no other medicine to give you, I was done. So I tried Kratom. And I'll tell you what, this Thanksgiving, I not only spent a day prepping for cooking food, I cooked the whole meal with my family, and it was a blessing from God.
That's how I feel about it. It's exactly, I call it the mercy tree.
Mom, it is the best thing I've ever found, and I am terrified they'll take it from me because I am not a suicidal person, so don't get me wrong. Sure. I am not a suicidal person.
Sure.
However, the thought of going back to trying this drug that hurts my kidneys and that drug that hurts my liver and this one that hurts my heart,
right,
to, we can't help you, and being in bed all day long and can't, too much pain to sleep, can't do anything.
Oh.
From where we are now, I'm homeschooling my child. I'm in night school.
Uh-huh.
And that was just since July, since we found Kratom.
That's really, really amazing. How much are you taking?
I take 1 teaspoon twice a day.
Oh, fantastic. That's what I recommend. So do you find that it affects your consciousness in any way that you can tell?
I can think clearer.
Okay.
I don't know. I was told that it was probably the gabapentin that was causing so many memory problems and not my brain injury.
Uh-huh.
And dizziness and just the feeling that I'm looking through fog all day and can't see clear.
Right.
Or think clear.
Right.
That is gone completely. And when I take Kratom, I can think, I can remember, and I'm happy.
And have you ever tried stopping it or not taking it?
I haven't yet because I am just recently coming off of all my pharmaceuticals. Tramadol was one I tried many years to quit, and the withdrawal symptoms, I'll tell you, is not for this earth.
Right.
It is for hell. And I thought tramadol was bad. So even on Kratom, when I started coming off of gabapentin, my world flipped. It is nasty withdrawal. worst thing I've ever experienced in my life. And so I haven't stopped taking Kratom yet because I don't think I'm done with gabapentin withdrawals yet.
I don't know that you should stop taking Kratom entirely, but I just wondered if you ever took a day off, and did you notice anything that was not working?
I haven't. I have not, no, to be honest, because I'm constantly in pain. And so finding something that works doesn't make sense for me not to use it. But I do take less now because I've added in Kava and Cordelius. Because Kratom itself doesn't seem to help.
I think you're trying to say Corydalis.
I probably am trying to say Corydalis.
That's a Chinese herb that also has opiate type properties in it, but it's not nearly as strong in terms of relieving pain by itself. But it's one of the ones that in Chinese medicine is used for pain all the time. So that's a great combination. Well, listen.
And Kratom itself did not help with my headaches. In fact, if I don't take a white vein, I have problems with dopamine levels, not having enough dopamine. So when my dopamine levels are low, I know it because I'm really conscious of what my body feels like.
Right.
So I found out that if I don't add in a white vein Kratom into my regimen, I start getting lower dopamine levels. Muscle aches, tiredness, depression symptoms, joint pain, that type of thing.
So you say Kratom by itself doesn't help with your headaches?
If I take a green or red, it does help, but it doesn't get rid of them.
Okay.
If I add in a white, it gets rid of my headaches completely.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
and keep in mind, I don't have normal headaches. I don't have migraines. I don't have cluster headaches. Mine is from a brain bleed putting pressure on the inside of my brain.
Right.
And I stopped having seizures completely.
Stopped having what?
In bed for elongated times.
You stopped having what?
I stopped having seizures completely.
Wow. Yeah, that's one thing I haven't used Kratom for is people with epilepsy. That would be very interesting. Well, you know, the other thing is, have you noticed that you ever had felt like you had to increase the dose? That you reached the tolerance?
I have not. No.
Yeah, I think at that dose you don't need to. But I
don't understand.
Experiment with you. In fact, if I were working with you, I might recommend that you take a higher dose. You might even get more relief.
I've thought about it, but I am so cautious and so scared.
Yeah.
Especially when you hear all the bad stuff out there. My support group is telling me to, this is probably too much information, but once a month on my monthly, Kratom does not seem to work as effectively. And in the support groups, you hear about that a lot, people questioning why it doesn't work so well at that point.
Wow.
That's when they're telling me to double my dose to 2 teaspoons.
Yeah.
But I haven't been brave enough to do it yet.
No, it's not going to hurt you. It's not that dosage. Even higher than 2 teaspoons, if you need it, is not going to have any adverse effects. You probably. I think you can safely take more. You saw that.
I've been researching what other herbs I can add in with it to kind of help with the pain that Kratom doesn't reach, but I haven't tried to double my dose or to increase it yet.
It's not only pain that you need to be treated with. If you were working with me and Chinese medicine, I would be doing acupuncture. I'd be doing ear seeding, which is very effective. What state do you live in?
Washington.
Washington, yeah. Well, you'll probably find some people there who do ear seeding. Acupuncturists do it very well. You can easily learn it yourself. I'm going to teach it as part of my course this year. And that is amazingly effective for specific problems. You can just find the points in your ear that correspond to that problem, put a seed on it, and press on it 9 times, 3 times a day, and control lots of symptoms and cure them. So I know medical doctors and even acupuncturists who've given up using needles and given up using their normal practice and just doing ear seeds because it works so well. And it's totally legal.
I will definitely look into that.
It's totally legal. So anyway,
my son, my 19-year-old son has Asperger's and ADHD, and he has been using white vein kratom, now straight white, and only a small dose, about a half a teaspoon, instead of his Concerta.
Wow.
Because we sat down one day and talked to his doctor, and we talked to him, and the Concerta was, they were having too much of a hard time finding a dose that didn't leave him angry and just violent, but yet controlled his ADHD.
Wow.
So he's been using white horn, a half a teaspoon every morning.
Uh-huh.
He is a totally different person.
Boy, that's really amazing to hear. That's good news. Thank you.
Right now, he's at church in a night school for Bible college.
Thank you, Patty. You know, this is going to do a lot of people a lot of good because we're going to have this available online. This whole webinar, so our people are hearing it directly from people like you, and it's going.
I would like to tell you where I buy all my kratom because I know that they watch it from the tree all the way to the bag. You get it.
Good. Who is it?
And they have great prices, discounts, and sales.
Yep.
And wonderful customer service. It is Soap Corner spelled with a K, .com. They also have a group called, well, actually, I don't know the group's name. It's SK something on Facebook that I'm part of, and you can get up to 40% off flash sales.
It's called Corner? Corner, K-O-R-N-E-R?
Yes, SOAPKORNER.com.
SOAPKONRNER. Soap Corner.
Yes, they are called what's called a vetted vendor, meaning that they have all their batches of kratom tested. Every batch that comes in, they test it for bacteria, molds, heavy metals, anything impurity.
I'm going to try those guys myself. Thank you so much, Patty. I really appreciate your input on this. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling on me.
I'm just going to continue hearing stories here because I'm loving it. And if you guys are tired of it, go ahead and say goodbye. I won't feel offended, but as long as people,
I'm going to listen.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so we have Matthew Lewis. Hello, Matthew. Matthew Lewis. Matthew Lewis. Hello. Hello, are you there? Probably trying to figure out how to get your speaker to work or something. I'm going to leave you on for a few minutes and see if you can catch on. Meantime, I'm going to unmute somebody else. So,
hello, can you hear me now?
There you go. Okay, what did you do? Because people are waiting before they come on. I'm wondering what kind of struggles you're having to get your voice heard.
I never did the webinar before.
Okay.
I haven't used it. I've been doing research because I'm on some medicine, and I wasn't sure if it would interact, like with heart rate, blood rate, and all that.
Yeah, the only thing I heard about is not taking it with MAO inhibitors. That's all I heard, and I don't know exactly why.
Yeah, because they can't decide if I have tardive dyskinesia or dystonia. So I wasn't sure if that would help with that or not.
Absolutely. I think I would definitely give it a go.
And I also heard something about rotating the strains, white, slow, medium, fast.
Yeah, and some people make different blends. So
yeah, I'm still learning.
There's a lot of experimentation that goes into that is yet to happen with kratom, and it's wonderful because that's one of the values of herbs is that when you do things like this, you don't hurt yourself because it really is quite safe, and you can feel pretty good about just experimenting and trying different things.
Yeah, thank you for the webinar to inform people.
Thank you, Matthew. Bye.
Bye.
Matt Gleason. Well, it's Mary Gleason. Hello, Mary. Mary Gleason. Trying to get your speaker to work with me. Mary Gleason. Hello, Mary Gleason. Well, I'm sorry if I'm going to miss you, but if I can't reach you, I'm going to have to go to someone else. Thank you. Here's yeah. Hello. Hello, is this Myra?
Oh, hi. Yes. Can you hear me?
Sounds like you got your hands full there.
Oh, my grandkids. Oh, my goodness. Embarrassing. I joined a little bit late, and so if somebody else already asked this question or you already provided the answer, I apologize. I'm an herbalist, and I'm going through my clinical training, and I'm currently taking Norco. I had a back surgery that did not go well, left me with nerve damage, and I'm trying to get off of those pills. Right now, I'm only taking them once a day. Well, what I want to know is I like to percolate my extractions, my tinctures when I can. And is this something that I can percolate, or I can create an alcohol tincture myself?
There's directions on the handout that you downloaded how to make the tincture.
Oh, okay. Okay. And
I would just suggest starting with a half to a full teaspoon and seeing how that works for you. And
okay.
Make a standard 1 to 4, 1 to 5 tincture.
What does the alcohol content is on there too?
Yes, it's on the handout.
Okay. And then so I could take a half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon twice a day?
Yes.
Or should I just start off with once a day?
Or you could take more if you feel like you need it. It's not going to hurt you. I just don't want people to because they want to get high to sit there and drink the whole ounce of tincture all at once.
No, that's definitely not me. Okay.
People
take it as needed.
People have and will do that, and that's one of the problems. It's easy to take it down that way.
Right. Okay. All right, but otherwise I could take it as needed. I could start off with a half a teaspoon, increase it to a teaspoon.
Until it's treating your pain.
Right. Okay.
Don't be afraid of it.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
I have to say I've had a pound of kratom sitting around in my house for a month or a month and a half, and I was so afraid to ever give it to anybody or try it. And finally, one day, I just got up the nerve and I took a teaspoon of it, and I had a little pain in my hip or something like that. And lo and behold, within 30 minutes, the pain was gone. And then I kept thinking, well, is this going to make me stoned like cannabis? I don't like the effects of cannabis on me anymore because it just doesn't work with my lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't affect my consciousness at all throughout the day. It just took away the pain, which is perfect.
That's exactly what I'm looking for.
All right. Well, good. Thank you so much, Myra. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Let's see. I'm going to try Mary Gleason again, I think. Mary, are you there? Hello, Mary? Mary Gleason? Mary Gleason? Okay. Well, if I missed anybody in your comments, I'm awfully sorry. I think this has gone on a good amount of time, and it's been a fascinating webinar, and I didn't expect it was going to be as good as I think it actually has turned out to be, with all of these testimonials that people are throwing up and questions and sources and things like that. It's just going to be a rich webinar to share with everyone else, my students and other herbalists around the world, and I hope that you all become very proactive in trying to keep Kratom legal. Thank you very much, and good night, everyone.